Hi guys, welcome to CUADERNO. Like a notebook, blankness is a space for ideas, thoughts, musings, and most of all, connection. Come draw your experiences with us. Write down your thoughts, relate, and connect. Your story is meant to be shared. Oh, any friends that are introvert that are in a romantic relationship and how they are in that relationship? No.
I think I guess maybe if not necessarily introvert, maybe just like observing the different personalities within couples.
Okay.
I think there's some couples that really complement each other because they're more similar in maybe their temperaments. Like, I think if two introverted people were together, it's just kind of easier to manage your time. Um, because then you're not having the challenge of one person wants to stay home and the other person wants to go to a party. It seems a little bit easier that way. Um, but I think that's not necessarily the only um, like way to to have like a good relationship. There's definitely people who are a little bit more opposite, but then it works out. But I think when you were kind of talking about when you were in grade one and you ran for president, which like seems a little bit counter to what people would expect of an introvert. I think it's also important to point out that introversion and extroversion is just like one piece of the puzzle. I think personality and really what makes up people's entire being is influenced by so many other things as well. Um, so I think, yeah, just kind of putting that out there, even with dating, it's like just because you're both introverts, it's not the only thing that's gonna mean that you guys are compatible,
Yeah.
I think.
And it's a matter of compromise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, of course, there are tendencies for each one, especially in conflict. I was reading what thing that stood out to me again in this book was when an introvert and extrovert couple were fighting, and the introvert woman was kind of holding back because she doesn't want to, explode and just you just want to probably just be quiet, and while the extrovert guy was just keep on raging and raging. I
Mm-hmm.
think there was a miscommunication at the first part of their relationship because this guy, the extroverted guy, was misinterpreting that she doesn't care, like a
Mm-hmm.
snob, or like snobbing the situation, but where in fact the introvert woman, the wife, was just trying to not escalate the conflict. She was just remaining to be quiet, and but she is not able to voice out her concern, her side, you
Mm-hmm.
know so I think it is really a matter of communication in terms of any kind of relationship.
Yeah.
If you guys like just be open and honest, and I think having that environment and acceptance who you are as a person, regardless if you're introvert or extrovert,
Right.
is when it comes to conflict, it's just having that acceptance and clarity within the relationship. And this woman, Micah Salonga, was saying,
That's from Facebook, right?
yeah,
Yeah, I read
sh-
her
right.
response.
It was very thoughtful. Do you want to read it, or do you have it there? Just
uh,
scroll it. It's under the. Okay, I'll read it.
yes.
It's right in front of me, anyways. But yes, thank you, Micah. She's like, it took me a while before I even discovered introvert and extroversion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Personally, mabilis mag-init yung ulo ko. It means she get really hot-tempered. So she tries to calm down first so she can approach the problem in an objective way. And um, she noticed that extroverts, she doesn't know if it's coincidence, but I noticed the friends or fiance is always quick to give their side of the opinion when conflicts arise. If I'm not yet ready to hear it, I get defensive. So I need to time to vent and digest before coming back and discuss a compromise. So I think she probably goes to a room or something to objectively assess the situation and then
Mm-hmm.
comes back. And I think that's a beautiful boundary of
Yeah.
setting the tone in the relationship, right?
Yeah. Actually, when I was reading her response, I found it really interesting. Conflict resolution as an introvert.
Right, there's so many topics.
Yeah, yeah. But I definitely relate to was it Micah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what Micah was saying, because I'm the same way. That usually, if there's conflict going on, I know that I can be quite sensitive and emotional in that
Me too.
moment. So I
Mm-hmm.
need to kind of get out of that um, space and just think to myself first. Um, and I know that for myself, but some people may not know that or may not understand that, and it just looks like withdrawal. Um, uh, but again, I think it goes back to what you were saying about compromise, and just really talking to each other about your different ways of dealing with conflict. But yeah, I was just kind of like laughing to myself or like smiling when you were kind of talking about um, the different stories of introverts and conflict. And I wasn't laughing at the stories, but I'm kind of laughing at myself because
Because you see.
I remember times in the past where I was really like angry at someone and I just had to like write down points, like points for my argument to like come back to them later. Just kind of like organize my thoughts on paper first. It's like,
Wow.
okay, this is why I'm angry with you. So point one, point two, like I just like I really wrote it down and I need to like
Wow.
not just to see what my thoughts and emotions are, but to like kind of put it down in a more like maybe logical way. And so I have like a more concrete argument that isn't just based off what I'm feeling. And then I can go back and have that conversation with someone.
So, Giselle, may court case ka pala.
I
Lawyer.
do.
That's beautiful, though. I like that. So systematic and methodical.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like that sometimes you kind of miss like the heat of the moment, you
Uh-huh.
know? Like maybe I think maybe sometimes the draw side of that is when you're alone and you're thinking about whatever problem you're having with somebody else, you can kind of end up over exaggerating or making things worse in your own mind if you take a little bit too long to think about things. So I think that may be a drawback. Um, but maybe that's also something to compromise with, you know, maybe kind of knowing that hey, my partner needs time to think about this and maybe having I don't know I don't I'm not trying to give relationship advice but maybe realizing that okay, what's an appropriate time to think about this? Should I take a few hours or a day? Maybe I shouldn't take an entire week to think about this problem because then
Mm-hmm.
I can end up overthinking things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
I agree.
yeah, it's so interesting how different it is, just based on your personality, how you can problem solve.
Oh, yeah. And you know the 24-hour rule, right? And how
Mm,
our memories and it's just our memories aren't accurate all the time. So if
yeah.
you have a conflict and you wait it out for like a week, I'm
Hmm.
pretty sure your memories are not accurate. So I
Yeah.
think the 24-hour rule, I remember that before. Emotions get in the way, always, always the
Mm,
way you see things. So give yourself 24 hours, come back with that person, and yeah, if you're like me, for me, I pray about it.
mm,
And try to really just have some pray for clarity. But yeah,
yeah.
24 hours, come back to that person and see, as long as you're open to each other's opinions and try not to get hurt. I'm sensitive as well, like very
Yeah.
emotional, but it's a hard thing to do for sure. For me,
Hmm.
I don't like conflict. I avoid it.
Hmm.
It's hard to confront too, I find.
Yeah. It is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Giselle. Do you have questions that you think will open up doors for us to realize more about the topic?
Mm, I think we kind of touched on this um, in like little bits and pieces so
Mm-hmm,
far,
right.
but what do you think are the strengths and weaknesses of being an introvert?
Strengths and weaknesses. Again, this is
Or
not
maybe pros and cons?
definite. Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Sure, sure. This is again like definite, not like definite, depends on your personality too. And but in general, introverts, I think I was reading this in a book. They're more, I think I find, based on experience, more observant, right? They pay attention
Mhm.
to details, willing to listen. They, I think they're more sensitive and they seem more behind what is in front of you. They look
Mm.
past it.
That's
Um,
so deep.
yeah, yeah, right. I don't know. I find that they see more of the bigger picture.
Mm.
But the drawback is you overthink.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
the what ifs,
Yeah.
and I that paralyzes you to not
Mhm.
take action. And I
Right.
think extroverts are the opposite, where in fact they just focus on the present and they just do it. They just
Mm.
go, go, go. They are able to probably not get tired despite their interactions with others. But I may be wrong. I think people get tired regardless of
Mm.
whether you're an introvert or extrovert. Um, but I think the main strength is really being able to relate to people. I think in a
Mm.
deeper level, I think, and seeing beyond what is right in front of you. I think for me. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's I think they touched upon that in the book, but I think from my experiences with people who are more introverted, they tend to be like more thoughtful
Mm-hmm.
um, and really like to take the time to think things through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think sometimes that time kind of ends up being indecision, being
Right?
like indecisive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's another thing I learned about myself in by reading the book. I used to think that I was just like an indecisive person, but then I learned through the book that it's not necessarily that I can't make a decision. It's more like I need extra time and kind of like almost all of the information and kind of weigh the risks and the benefits before I come to a conclusion, which was which is really helpful because now I know okay, I can make decisions. It's just going to take me a little longer to get there.
I know. Can you give us a concrete example of maybe in the simplest things that
uh,
you've deciding on?
usually when I'm shopping, when I'm
Shopping.
yeah,
Me too.
shopping for
The
new clothes.
camera.
Yeah, yeah.
Even the laptop that I have now.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Right?
oh
It's like
man.
usually with clothes, I'm like, should I buy this? Or actually, the best example would be this computer chair. Like I got this like my old computer chair. Literally, I was duct taping the armrests, being like, I don't need a new one. This is fine. It still has wheels. It's still standing. It's just the foam on the armrest is like chipped away. I'm just gonna duct tape it because duct tape fixes everything. But yeah, it took me probably maybe another year to get like another computer chair. But even that computer chair was still used. And then the wheel ended up coming off. But even then, I was like, do I really need a new computer chair? And then I realized that, okay, well, not really realized, I had to actually think about I spend a lot of time sitting on this chair I might as well invest on one that's going to be good. And then finally, I was able to just like go on Amazon and get a new chair. But yeah, it,
That's
I think
funny.
it was only when I actually thought about like the benefits of it versus like um, the cons, I can make a decision.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like even I think for me even I noticed like I don't like taking risks even financially,
Mm,
even though I know I'm okay. Like I think I have more so of a risk aversion attitude towards things. As much
mm.
as possible, I want to mitigate risks, but I'm just generalizing. I
The
think
same, I
extroverts
believe.
are more fast to decide and more
Yeah,
so like risk. Mm-hmm.
right. I think because they don't end up dwelling on the pros and the cons too much.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, this seems useful and something I'd like to do. I'm gonna just do it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, which is also it's nice. It's also
Mm-hmm.
nice to be around someone who's like that because then they can get you to do it too.
Yeah,
Whereas like you may have been too apprehensive and end up not trying it out. So it's kind of like that balance between the different
yeah.
personalities. It's really nice.
That's the thing. I really love that word, balance.
Mm-hmm.
With every area of your life, it's balance. Yeah. So that's very amazing. Hey, and I think even as kids, I think as teachers, even it touch even upon parenting and the way teachers provide that environment for the kids. Like
Yeah.
even as kids, they like group projects and stuff versus more so individual projects. I think having balance for in any kind of like structure environment, let's say
Mm.
in work or at school, is
What
just
did
aiming for that balance for
yeah?
each and every one of us.
What did you feel about group work in school?
Oh. I feel like I'm just there. I'm just ready to I don't have my own voice.
Yeah.
I find that and there are some classmates that we have that just take the lead naturally.
Yeah.
And
Usually
I don't
extroverts.
usually
Hmm.
and I'm just there. I don't feel like I'm getting my own ideas when I'm with people, so I just go with the flow. But
Mm.
when I know that I'm all alone, that's where I get ideas,
Right.
and then I would be able to contribute. But I'm just so accommodating with group
Mm.
work. Like I just
Hmm.
go with the flow, and I'm just yeah. How about
Right.
you?
It's like let's just tell me what I have to do, and
Yeah,
then I'll
yeah.
do it. Yeah.
But in a way it's not good because
Yeah.
you're not showing or like giving yourself your own
Hmm.
strength and ideas to the group, and it's good to have variety for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It, yeah. It actually made me think that maybe sometimes there's too much emphasis on group work sometimes,
Yeah.
especially for kids like us who do a lot of really great work alone. Um, and not to say that we should just always be alone.
Oh no.
No, because we have to like we're still human beings. We need to socialize with other people, but I think sometimes kind of making kids work to work. I don't want to say work together because it seems kind of bad, but getting kids to do group work can kind of stifle their creativity sometimes, or even maybe even their perception of self. Like,
Sense of
uh,
self, yes, I was gonna
right?
say their
It's like,
identity.
yeah, like you said, you feel like you're not expressing yourself. You feel like maybe you're not contributing enough to the group, but really you just have another mode of thinking
Mm-hmm.
or coming up with a solution. So
Yeah.
yeah, but I always found it was a lot better with when we were able to choose who our group was. Like if I was
Oh,
able to be in a group of
me
friends,
with me.
right? Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah. But yeah, I always felt like, okay, now I can express myself.
Yeah, even though you're in a group because you're comfortable with that person. Is that what you're saying, G?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Exactly. So yeah, it's just I hope there's more education or there's more openness to, you know how organizations are. I hope they're more open to people and welcoming each one as a person and to be able to
Yeah.
empower them and utilize their strengths and
Hmm.
potentially promote more self-awareness too. I think
Yeah.
that's one thing that's so important in this in living is to be
Hmm.
self-aware and to reflect,
Hmm.
right? And
For
I
sure.
know, I think would you say reflective traits are for introverts, or would you say extroverts as well?
I think it tends to be more for more introverted people tend to reflect. Um, Probably because they are more of like in their inner world, uh,
Right.
kind of tend to live in their heads. Um, and yeah, I think maybe because they do spend more time alone that they can, and also introverts just tend to be more at peace with alone time, compared to extroverts.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I, I think that's really important though.
Yeah, for sure. Um, we're coming, I believe, to an end here. I think we're touching everything I think that we have in our minds. Now that we're talking about alone time, I think it's good for me to mention like how do we take care of ourselves being introvert and extrovert.
Mm.
That's one thing that you pointed out, having that mindfulness in being alone. And I know Kuya J Paul. Hi, Kuya J Paul. He's one of my
Hello.
idol podcasters. I don't know if he's
Oh.
gonna listen, but yes, he's an introvert, and he's saying that he has mindful breaks,
Mm.
because he's an introvert. He's an entrepreneur and leader in a church, and he's just doing a lot of things, business and speaking, but he does have those blocks where he is very mindful in his rest, and that's what I'm trying to learn. How
Hmm.
about you, G, as an introvert? How do you take care of yourself?
I think I I think it's kind of changing a little bit for me. I think before when I was younger, it was more of just um, having time to do what I want to do, or like in terms of entertainment. Like after being out with a group of friends, now I can go home and like watch this thing I really want to watch, or like play this game I really want to watch, which is like a cool thing to do too. But I think now that I'm older, I tend to do more like self reflection,
Mm-hmm.
um, journaling,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I, I'm interested to know what um, your friend means by mindfulness. Like, how does he achieve that? Is that just kind of doing an activity by yourself? Is it meditation? Like that? That's something I'd like to know more about.
Mm-hmm. I'm not entirely sure because I didn't ask, but for me personally, mindfulness meditation, that's being present in the moment,
Mm-hmm.
just being judgmental about the thoughts that just run through your head.
Mm-hmm.
That's meditation though, but being intentional, I think, is the better word that he used about the breaks.
I
And
have a
I
hard time in doing that,
being
uh,
intentional,
being in the moment.
me
And
too.
also, I have a tendency to, like with my thoughts, to focus on just one thing and then
Me
kind of
too.
like zoom into it too much
Mm-hmm.
and not question my own thinking, which is
Yeah.
something that I'm trying to like do better.
Yeah.
Hey, that's kind of like not really introversion, but That would be an interesting podcast topic.
Yeah. And yeah, honestly, I was gonna say the same thing. That's
Hmm.
an interesting one. And I struggle with it even back then. It was more so with my thoughts, with anxiety. You know,
Yeah.
back then, the psychologist did tell me about mindfulness and the
Mm.
practice itself. I think that even gives you greater awareness and more enlightenment in the present. And I'm having a hard time with so many things
Me
happening
too.
right now, right?
Yeah.
Information, busy, we're busy, we're
Mm-hmm.
always on our phones.
Yeah.
It's just hard to be present and just be at the moment. Yeah,
You need to get
right.
that cabin in the woods. Just
I know.
go there by yourself. No
Yeah, it's
phone, no
yeah.
laptop.
I feel like I'm always on the edge, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's a good point. Something that we need to delve into maybe in the next podcast or so.
Yeah. I'd like to know more about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like
And
mindfulness and
work-life balance as well.
yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think that was the topic that you wanted to talk about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think as extra, it's so hard because I don't identify myself as an extrovert, but even so, I think the main point here is to have rest,
Hmm.
be
Yeah.
deliberately resting.
Now, I'm learning
Yeah.
a lot about you right now.
Really? Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
my soul is getting exposed. But yeah, look at
Yeah.
her. She's reading a book.
I'm
Yeah.
using my like introversion lens to
Yeah.
like read.
Oh. Yeah. I think that's everything. I'm interested what you're learning about me, but we will talk about that after the podcast.
Yeah. Okay.
But anyways, G, what is your final message to our audience, whoever's listening?
Final message. It, it's okay to be an introvert. It's okay to be on the quiet side. You don't always have to play that role of like the really outgoing, fun person just to get people to like you. You know, just be. Um, it sounds so cheesy, like be yourself, but then
So true though.
be. It's okay to be who you are, and the right people will see that and be attracted to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Do you have any
Giselle.
takeaways?
I've had a lot of takeaways. I need bubble tea now. I need to take away bubble tea. But yes, guys, this is the main point of our podcast is to be able to understand yourself, be self-aware, and embrace who you are. And I think,
Yeah.
you don't have to be anyone else. Find the strength and find your weaknesses as well, but embrace both of them, and that makes who you are. Embrace your flaws as well. And I hope this gave you light um to being extrovert or introvert. We talked a lot about relationship conflict resolutions and all. We didn't talk about leadership, but but yeah, it's just amazing how each and every one of us are different in our own way, but with our differences we complement each other, we help each other, we rise, we lift each other up and we rise because of that. So I hope you guys appreciate the diversity and the differences because that's what makes us human. Pretty in the world. I'm gonna sing now. Just kidding. Okay. Thank you, Giselle.
Thank you for
Really
having me.
enjoyed this podcast. So
Me
much
too.
insight and wisdom. That's my friend. Okay. Guys, thank you for watching. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, guys. I hope you guys follow at Ang Cuaderno on IG, follow Cuaderno on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. We also have a website, www.cuadernojournals.com, and I appreciate you sharing this message and hearing out our stories. Bye!